Hey everybody, welcome back. This is Dave with Alum House Sound. Today we have another video for a client of mine. So I've been working with this group for quite some time just to help them get some of their gear set up and routed properly. And they've added some S16s. They started out with all local inputs. They added an S16, they added a second S16 on stage to help get all of their routing streamlined up to their console. But recently they reached out and they said, hey, we'd like to get you to kind of look at our mix, refine our mix. They did multi-track record, and then they sent me the copy of their scene file. And so I've got that, I've put it onto my console, I've got the tracks into Studio One, which is the DAW that I use, and so I've got that hooked up across USB. And so I'm just gonna send a loop of the tracks into the console, and I'm going to look and see what I get. I haven't looked at any of this yet, so you'll be seeing it with me for the first time. And so it'll be kind of exciting just to jump in, see what someone else's scene looks like, and see what kind of pointers and tips we can offer to this group, and maybe you learn from it as well. So let's jump into the console. Here we go. All right, so here we are. We've got the DAW set up and we are pushing tracks into the console. Now we've just loaded the scene from the customer, so I'm going to hit routing and we can see that they've got a mix of AES50 and local inputs, but we're going to switch this to the play side down here. Push that. Now we've got our card feeding everything, and you can see now we have all these meters lighting up. And you can see their stream is here. So I'm going to hit solo. When I hit solo, that's going to give me a meter up here, and then their mains are here as well. If I run this up to 0, and let's say it there at 0, we can see that we've got some limiting or something that's pushing the stream up pretty hot. I do see the red clip light is on pretty aggressively, but we're going to just kind of look through this and see what we can find and maybe help them out and help you guys out as well. So I'm going to start on just the top layer of everything. I've got here a drum DCA. You're probably not going to be able to see these that well, but the yellow one here is a drum DCA. And then we've got an instrument DCA, vocals, vocal lead, and vocal delay. On the left-hand side, we've got our vocals here, and it looks like we've got a little bit of activity on a few microphones. We've got a lead Vox microphone. There is a talkback mic, which is for the band talking to the rest of the band in the in-ears. And you can see we do have some activity on that as well. Acoustic guitar and electric guitar, they don't have in this particular recording. Synth left and right and keys left and right, we do have. There's a choir left and right not being used. On the next layer down, this is where we've got our drums. So kick drum looks like it's pounding away. Snare drum, we've got a rack tom and a floor tom. I don't have any information on hi-hat, nothing from clicks and tracks, and no bass either. And then it looks like they do have some ambient room mics, but I did not have those, anything captured in those in the recordings that they sent to me. And the last two here are PC. If I flip down to the auxiliary inputs, I don't have any auxiliary inputs that are being utilized in this recording. We do have their effects returns here for the house, and then these effects returns that are red here for the stream. That's a reverb and a delay. So this setup is very similar to the setup that I talk about in this video. I'll put up here in the top corner. And that's about using a post-fader mix to build your house mix as well as your live stream. And you can mix with one sound engineer instead of having to have a dedicated sound engineer. I do want to look at their buses real quick, which is down here on the left. This is the quickest way to get to it. And what I see here from left to right, we do have 6 in-ear monitors. Then we have P16 drum, which is probably just sending to their P16s. We've got P16 Vox. We have IEM Verb as a pair. And then we also have the live stream here, left and right. And then we have their reverb and delay send for the house, reverb and delay send for the stream. So the board's set up pretty standard. It's kind of almost a straight copy of what I've got there on that recording that we posted a second ago. But I do see a lot of these. The stream is clipping a lot. The P16 drum is clipping. IEM4 is clipping. And so I want to take a look at this and just kind of see what we can find out. First thing I'm going to do is just take a look at the live stream here, because I see it's clipping a lot. So I'm going to come down here on the right side. I'm going to select the stream, and I'm going to hit effects. I'm going to see if they've got a limiter on this. Oh yeah, I don't know if you can see that. So this limiter is being pegged. It's taking out 15 dB of audio sound, which means it's really being squashed. It's being just drained of all of the life. Now, their input gain is plus 9.5 dB, and their output is -1. I'm going to leave the -1. The other settings are fine, but I'm going to turn this down to 0 and see what that gets us. So even at 0, it's taking out upwards of 5 and 6 dB, which tells me that their levels going into this bus are just a little hot. Maybe they've got some compression on the other side of this. And so next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to hit the home button, because I've got this stream selected, and I can go over to the compressor. All right, so we've got kind of the mastering compressor here of 4 to 1 ratio. We've got 40 millisecond attack, no hold, no hold, and a very fast release. Now they are pushing this with a plus 5 dB. Now they're removing 6 dB, but typically I'm looking to only add in about half of whatever you're removing. But in this case, because they're clipping, I'm going to turn this output gain all the way down. Now I'm going to go back to our effects and see where we're at now. Okay, so now we're not hitting this clip, which is good. I'm going to bring this back up maybe to +3. All right, so when I turned it up to +3, now we're back to removing 3 dB. So if I turn this limiter back down, say to +1, it's just barely hitting the limiter. Some of the bigger hits it's hitting. So that right there is going to clean up their live stream just in general. I haven't listened to anything. I don't know what the mix sounds like, but just the fact of trying to keep this thing off of clipping, off of the limiter that hard. And actually now I can look at it. Even at +1, we hit a loud part of the song. It was going back up to like pulling out 5 dB sometimes. So we've got some other things to address. I'm going to leave the limiter down, and we are going to come back over to the compressor for this stream. And that's being hit pretty hard. So the next thing for me to do is look at what is actually clipping. All right, so I'm going to come back over here, and first I'm looking at the synth channel. The synth channel seems to be pushed pretty hot. So I'm going to kind of run through a basic sound check almost, even without the audio playing. So I'm going to come in here, I'm going to turn the compressor, the EQ, and the low cut off. And I want to see what our gain is set at. And if I look up here in the top left, my gain right now is coming in at -3, which is a little aggressive for me. I want to bring this back down and kind of tame this a little bit back down to say -9. You can maybe see it better up here in this screen. So I'm going to turn this down some. There we go. So we're kind of in this -12, between -12 and -6 range is where I'm headed now. So now I can turn the EQ and the low cut back on. And now I'm going to look at their compressor. So the compressor is pulling out 6 dB, and they have no makeup gain on it. Not knowing what it sounds like, I automatically like the fact that it's just not getting hit quite as hard. I might lessen the compression and only take out about 3 dB. This is a synth, so synth is usually a pretty controlled instrument already on its own. All right, let's take a look at what we see here. Here's the keys, and I'm going to go back over to the config screen, turn off the EQ, the compressor, and the low cut. And let's see what we get for keys here. So the keys are pretty steady here. And they could probably stand to actually come up some. So if I turn that gain up a little bit, there we are. Now we're close to that -12 range when they're playing. So again, when I'm setting gain by what I see here on the input channel, not by what I hear anywhere else. And I'm going to turn their mains down because I just don't need to see the mains up. All right, so here now I'm going to turn the EQ, the low cut back on, and let's take a look at the compressor again. This compressor also is getting pegged pretty hard at, it's taking out upwards of 6 and 8 dB. So I'm going to lighten that up some. They don't have any makeup gain, so that's fine. Now, I did see on these other buses, on the DCA, sorry, that the drums were just kind of pegging everything. So I'm going to see if we can find out what's going on here with the drums. All right, so our kick is over here. It's way over to the far left. Sorry, it's not in the shot that well, but we're going to look at the screen as much as we can anyway. So I'm going to come back over here to the config tab. I'll turn off the EQ, the compressor, and the low cut. We're going to rinse and repeat this thing. Now this thing is hitting pretty aggressively up at like -2. So I'm going to turn this thing down. See if we can control this some more down here. All right, that is a consistent level there. It's below -6, it's above -12. Let's turn on the EQ and the low cut, and let's see what this compressor looks like now. Now they have a 10 dB makeup gain on the compressor. So let's turn that all the way down. And the ratio is 2.5. The attack is 30. They've got a standard hold and release here. I'm going to turn the hold all the way down. And I'm just going to leave the attack there. We're going to go back and listen to this in a minute, but I am going to turn this ratio up to 4:1. And let's see what we get here if I bring this down now. Okay. So now I'm taking out about 6 dB on that. And so for comfort, I could bring this back up +3. Okay. Now they've also got a gate that they were using, so let's look at the gate. I think the gate is just closing off whatever's at the bottom there, maybe when they're not playing. All right, let's take a look at snare drum then. All right, so snare drum, we'll go back over to the config tab, EQ, compressor. I'm going to turn off the gate too because I got a gate on this. All right, so we see this jumping up here. When he hits, it's going up to -2. There's a bunch of noise in there that mic is picking up, but we're just watching it bounce here. We want to get this below -6. All right, EQ is back on, low cut's on. Let's take a look at the compressor. All right, again, they've got 2.5 on the ratio, 30 millisecond. They've got a pretty, I'm going to turn the hold all the way down, and a standard release, but they've got +7 dB on the output gain. So I'm going to turn that down. And let's turn the gain, turn the compressor back on. We're going to pull this down so that when he's hitting, I don't see him hitting yet. All right, now he's wailing on the snare drum. There we go. So we'll go -6 and just see what that sounds like. We'll bring it back up 3. There we go. We'll take a look at this gate. We'll turn the gate on because they like those settings. Next one, rack tom. So I'm going to finish up the rest of this sound check. I'm just doing the same thing, and then we'll come back and readdress what these mixes sound like. All right, I do want to take a look at this. This is the lead vocal here. So the lead vocal, when I looked at this, the input was kind of peaking as well. And so I'm going to wait for this patch to start it back up again. All right, here we go. So now we're going to watch this level up here. And we'll see what we get on this lead vocal. All right, so that part right there that just came in was a little loud. That's above -6, so I'm going to turn it down a little bit. The background, the fluctuations right now are when they're not singing, but there's a loud section coming up here in just a second, and I want to see where this gets us and adjust accordingly because we're looking for the loudest part. So here we go. All right, so that's almost clipping. Now we're going to use the compressor to hold that in. We're looking for kind of averages being here in this -12 range. All right, we'll add the EQ on, we'll add the low cut on, and then we will take a look at the compressor. So the compressor is a 7:1 ratio. We've got some hold time, some longer release time, 60 millisecond attack, and then a 3 dB makeup gain. So I'm going to get this back to starting again here, and let's see what they're doing. Because having this 3 dB makeup gain right now when the person's not singing is just going to be raising your noise floor of whatever else is happening on stage. But now they're singing. All right, so they're pulling out 6 dB, 7 dB. I might lighten up this ratio a little bit. Go to 4:1. And just moving to 4:1, let's see, we got this loud section coming up here. Going to 4:1, instead of taking out 6 dB, it took out 3 dB. All right, so that's pretty aggressive there on that compression, but that's what we want the compressor to do. So I'm going to back this makeup gain down to 1.5. And I think we're ready to actually start listening to the mix now. Please take a second and visit the like button and the subscribe button. All right, so I have not changed their faders. All I've done is adjust some of the gain structure. And what I'm going to do is bring up this. I have my studio monitors kind of right over here, and I've got a lapel on me, which is back here. And so you're going to just hear whatever they hear through that. And I'm mostly just going to be talking through what I'm hearing. It's not going to sound high quality audio coming through this mic into you, but we'll use it for right now. This is their house mix. All right, so what I hear just automatically is a very thin mix, but this is a standard front of house mix. You have drums turned down or barely at all in the front of house, and then you've got vocals turned up. All right, so with that, I'm going to listen now to the stream, and we'll see what the stream sounds like. It's going to be probably louder. So I'm going to hit the dim. Let's see what the dim is set at here. All right, first we want to make sure when I come in here that my exclusive last, I hit on the monitor section, I hit the view button, and that brings me into these settings, and I'm going to make sure that exclusive last is set up there. I'm going to turn off solo follows select, so that if I move an instrument, I don't want it to solo that. I want it to just continue soloing what I'm listening to. And then I want mix bus solo AFL, so that it's after fader level. All right, let's go back over here, and we're going to go to, we have the dim attenuation here, which is -20. And if you remember, we turned our limiter is set to push the volume, but we kind of have that turned off right now. So I'm only going to turn it down by 5 dB with the dim on. All right, let's go back and listen now. Now I'm going to solo the stream. All right, so what I see automatically is we're not pegging this output right now. We're getting up to -2, which is fine, but with no compression, with some compression but no makeup gain, and the limiter with no input gain, we're not clipping, which is great. So that's where we want to start. We want to build the mix. We want to get the mix nice and strong and built well. But now, because we've turned the drums down with the gain and some of the other instruments down with the gain, we've kind of wrecked their mix. So I'm going to go through and kind of recraft this mix really quick, and we'll do that together here, which will be kind of fun. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to select the stream, and then I'm going to hit sends on fader, and I'm going to pull all the vocals down. I'm going to pull all of these instruments down. I'm going to go to the drums, and I'm going to pull the drums down. They've got tracks and bass, but again, we don't have those in the mix. So What I'm going to do is I'm going to start with this worship leader. So turn the volume up so we can hear. Oh yeah. So this is their reverb and delay too, but I'm going to turn that down. All right, reverb and delay are down now as well. All right, so we've got, this is their worship leader vocal. Bring up some synth. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit the mono button, because this mono button up here is going to, the mono button up here is going to help us build our mix in by stacking. Instead of hearing the width of things, we can stack the worship leader on top, then other instruments, supporting vocals, drums, all that stuff in here. So we'll get this lead vocal on. All right, synth. There's that keyboard sound. Synth, kick drum. Snare drum. Toms, what do these sound like? So that's kind of this is our band that we've got. Turn this dim off. All right, so we're back at the top of the track here. So here's the worship leader vocal. I'm gonna bring up these background vocals. So I've got an alto, a soprano, tenor, another alto. All right, now let's add some effects. Here's a delay. Reverb. All right, now I'm going to take it off mono and hear this spread out. You're not going to hear it, but... All right, now the next thing that I would want to do is look at if we want to spread the vocals wide and keep the worship leader in the middle, then we would come in, we would select the channel, we can go to sends, and then we would kind of page over here, if you will, or mouse over, so that we have our stream here, which is 11 and 12, and we could choose follow left and right pan, which it's currently panned a little to the right, that vocal is in the house, and we could follow that in the stream, or we could make it, different. So in this case, if I go to the right some, the next one looks like it's in the center in the house, but I'm going to push it a little bit to the right there, and then this one is in the center in the house. I'm going to put it 6 this way, and then the last one I'll go 10 to the left, and then now we would be able to listen to that, hear a spread of vocals along with their reverb, and go from there. So again, I built the mix in mono, but then when I go back to stereo, we would hear this widen out. So the background vocals seem a little heavy in the reverb. So what I'm going to do, so I'm going to hit the reverb here. So they're all the same amount in the reverb. Sorry about that. Camera battery died. Back to it. All right, so we were looking at reverb. So this has now the background vocals are muted in the reverb. I'm going to look at the delay, and they are in the delay just as much as the lead vocal. I like to reserve the vocal delay for my lead vocal, so I'm going to pull these down like -8, maybe even -10. Let's go -10, just because they were so reverb heavy. I want them to be in the reverb, but not in the delay. Let's see what that sounds like. All right, now I'm going to go back to the reverb, unmute them. All right, so with just a few minutes of time, we have adjusted the input gain so that we're not digitally clipping, which is great. We've also kind of altered the mix for the stream. Now, we haven't changed the mix for the house over here outside of just adjusting some of the gain structure, which is, again, keeping things out of clipping. They might need to make some minor adjustments to the house mix to get it to fit right in the house, and then secondarily would be alterations to the live stream, because any change you make in the house up or down is going to affect the live stream. But we've cleaned it up. We're not clipping, which is great. The stream is a lot more controlled. It still has some breadth now and some depth, and we'll go back and adjust EQ settings for them. But for this video, I think we're going to stop this here. All right, well, hey, I hope that was helpful for you. I hope you got the opportunity to dive in and look at someone else's setup, someone else's scene, someone else's tracks, someone else's worship service that might help you make some changes in your setup as well. Obviously, we addressed some key situations that we saw in there, over limiting, maybe over compression, but we were able to kind of dial things back. And it's a good point that I like to make of why I'm not a fan of buying a template. Now, this group didn't buy a template. They used my video. I've got that video linked right down below. You can check that out if you're looking to build 2 mixes with 1 engineer. It's a glorified post-fader mix. I'm not going to cloud that. That's all it is. But the video walks you through step by step, which is what this group followed. Now, they might have watched my playlist that I have for my team and might have copied some of the settings that I have for my vocals or for my band, like to the nth degree, which is only set up for my group in my setting and not necessarily yours. So be cautious, use your ears, pick up some tips and tricks along the way here that I hope you found helpful, and just craft your mix and keep refining it, keep making it better. Well, if you're not subscribed to the channel, hit the subscribe button below, and if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. Feel free to share it with some other folks that you think might benefit from it, and we'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace.